So I stumbled across a particular story when I was preparing for today's show, and I figured I absolutely had to share it with you all because it really is just beyond parody.
It's music to my ears, man. Too much today is beyond parody.
We're bringing up back that beautiful sound for just a not so beautiful moment. And, we haven't had enough of that recently.
That's right. A lot of things just are beyond parody inherently.
Yeah.
Like this fucking budget bill that's going to kill a bunch of people, beyond parody, but not in a way where we can use the sound,
Yes.
But I'm excited that we're bringing it back.
The sound is reserved for these like nicher things, but the national stories have been just so big. Yeah. But alas, once again, we're bringing it back. Last year, Florida GOP Representative Kat Cammack was pregnant, and at about 5 weeks, she saw a doctor. The doctors determined that she was experiencing an ectopic pregnancy. The treatment for an ectopic pregnancy is an abortion.
Of course.
Plain and simple. If you don't abort an ectopic pregnancy, it will most likely kill you. These things are lethal. Kat is the co-chair of the House GOP pro-life caucus. Very pro-life person, but now she's had an experience where she had to have an abortion. She's had an experience within a gray area.
Yeah.
The gray areas that we talk about really all too often when it comes to just how badly GOP abortion policy is written.
Yep.
She has a personal experience with that. And because Florida has a 6-week abortion ban and she was 5 weeks pregnant, when she went in and the doctors determined that she needed this care, lest her life be lost, possibly in the future, the doctors had to go and deliberate for hours and attempt to call Ron DeSantis' office personally to figure out if they could do an abortion in this instance, or if they did do an abortion, they would be pursued by the attorney general and maybe even lose their license and be sued.
That's explicitly an issue because of laws passed by Republicans in that state.
Yes, the laws are written so that those things will happen if doctors do abortions.
Yeah.
And they make no account for instances like this that exist in gray areas. So now she's had this experience. How do you think she came out of it? Being scared that she has a condition that may be lethal, that doctors were reluctant to give her care for a condition that could possibly kill her in the future, and that it was because of laws that she supports. What do you think her thoughts were after that?
Well, I never love to sort of like experience joy in the pain of others because that's my fellow human. You know what I mean?
Of course, it's not a good thing.
Pain, but it is interesting to see someone that literally caused this exact scenario likely for other people experience it themselves, and I hope it humbled her and made her realize that maybe we should have a more nuanced view of what the law should be around abortion.
It did not. Of course. It wouldn't be beyond parody if she did. It wouldn't be beyond parody if somebody had an experience like this and came out with their mind changed. You know what I'm saying? Instead, she came out and she spoke to the Wall Street Journal and said that the doctors waiting and fearing that they would lose their medical license if they gave her an abortion was a result of the left's fear-mongering around abortion policies. It's not the bad policy. It's not the fact that the policy doesn't account for gray areas. It's not the fact that the policy just doesn't work, frankly. It's not the fact that the policy is wrong. It's the fact that the left informed people about how the policies were bad and that caused them to wait. Well, and it's actually the left's fault.
But doctors and like hospitals or whatever, they don't make decisions based off what Democrats say. They make decisions based on the law and the care that they're able to provide to people. They weren't making a decision because like the fucking minority leader in the Florida State House or whatever said that this bill is going to kill people. They made decisions based on the law signed by Ron DeSantis.
Exactly. The minority leader in the state house didn't go and say, oh, guys, no, wait, you might be sued. The attorney general said you will be sued if you do an abortion. And they didn't define that well.
Yeah. And the truth is that like she probably could have did she end up getting
She got it. Yeah, she got treatment like an hour later.
Okay.
Or a couple hours later after they were deliberating about it.
Well, then what is she complaining about?
She's complaining about the left fear-mongering because the doctors had to wait. She's complaining about the left fear-mongering and causing doctors to not want to give this, and she refuses to define this procedure as an abortion, by the way, which it's like, you don't have a medical license.
You're
not a doctor.
And it is just an abortion. Like you might not want to call it that because it's inconvenient, but it is just an abortion. And it's interesting to me because like we have been talking about since the Dobbs decision, how without nuance in abortion laws, it will cause people to just die. Because doctors will be worried about giving treatment to somebody because that treatment is defined as an abortion, but there's all like these complications and potential like criminal penalties and whatnot. We've been saying that people that get ectopic pregnancies might be in pretty big trouble because the doctor wouldn't be able to treat them appropriately. And we were told by the right, you're just exaggerating. That's less than 1% of cases. That's not actually going to be a big deal. Lo and behold.
Yet we have a literal lawmaker, although it's not a Florida House lawmaker, it is a national lawmaker who could eventually, maybe in an awful world, be responsible for crafting legislation that would regulate abortions. Who has had a personal experience with these things and refuses to grapple with that and understand that she favors bad policy. She doesn't have good ideas.
So this is a congresswoman.
This is a congresswoman.
Okay, yeah. So it's her. Well, it's your state that did this to you. Exactly. Like it's just Ron DeSantis.
That's fucked up. That's fucked up. But these people will never understand that they have bad policies, and it feels like it's a part of this culture within the right of or not this culture, but it's this shift in right-wing politicians that we've been talking about for a couple years now, where guys like Madison Cawthorn, R.I.P., you know what I'm saying?
Oh, fuck.
They're young enough to have only been in a world where the right has been leaning super hard into the culture war, even harder than they did before, right? So they've drank the Kool-Aid. They're not the Mitch McConnell types.
Believers.
They're not the Mitch McConnell types that are the kind of people who are just doing this to stay in power for power's sake, for personal enrichment, and understand that what they're doing may not be the right thing, but they're playing the game of politics. These people don't even want to like play the game of politics. They've drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, they believe in absolutely nothing. They're 100% with whatever Trump says or whatever the GOP says.
And if they're willing to endure personal harm and not come out the other end of it saying, maybe we should rethink things. If they don't even care about their own well-being, how could you ever expect them to care for your well-being?
Because it's like under the left's ideal world or ideal policy structure around abortion, you would have just went in, got your procedure, and left.
Exactly.
Like
and
that would have been that.
You could choose not to have an abortion in other cases. Like
exactly.
That's what pro-choice is being all about. It's not only get abortions. It's about being able to choose whether or not you want to have them. To each their own. You know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. And it's also like, there's a special moment kind of right now, too, when it comes to abortion policy. There's instances like this that are like breaking, even though it happened last year. But the bigger instance was the instance of the woman in Georgia who was brain dead, who was kept alive only to be a literal incubator for the baby, despite the family's wishes, and I believe on the family's dime.
Well, yeah, and it's like, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure if the mother is, brain dead in that scenario, the baby's not going to develop very well.
Maybe. Who fucking knows? The crazier part about that is she wasn't even that far along in her pregnancy.
Yeah.
And the way that these abortion laws are written made it so that the doctors thought it would be in their best interest, or maybe for fear of losing their medical license, to keep this woman who is dead, functionally dead, alive to just be an incubator.
A vessel.
That is the most dehumanizing thing possible, and that's the logical extent of the abortion legislation that the GOP pushes. It's ridiculous.
It's gross, and this is where we are in the year of our Lord 2025.
And that's going to be kind of the theme of this episode, is that the GOP wants to kill you and make your life worse.
Like, we're running out of ways to say it, folks.
I can't say it in any other way. They're the party of killing you.
I don't know how else to say. Like, they just want you to die.
Yeah.
Like they are looking forward to your death. They revel in it. They drink blood at night thinking about it. It's who they are.
It's who they are.
The Republican Party they're just evil people. Welcome back to the show, everybody. It's Monday, July 11th. Oh, July 7th,
July
actually.
7th. Oh,
not 11th.
That's crazy.
Quick mistake at the beginning of the episode.
It's ridiculous. We're leaving it in, though. And a lot happened this past week.
A lot did happen this past week. But look, we're back on our regular posting schedule.
That's right.
We are recording Monday this week. We're recording Thursday this week. No more interviews ever again.
Ever again. Not once.
Yeah. Well, the people have spoken. They said these episodes are altogether too short. We need the corked up white boys.
They said,
only.
we love it when you guys get on the mic and talk for 60 to 120 minutes.
And shit, how could I say no?
That's what I'm saying.
How can I say no?
Want, and I'm here to entertain.
So we're back on our appropriate schedules. Monday and Thursday records. Of course, if you want early access to all of that, the first thing I will tell you to do is go become a patron. Early access.
Oh, what can we say?
All of the content over on Patreon. You could also get all of the stuff. You can follow us on all the platforms. You can get some merch on headintheoffice.com.
Guys,
it's all in the description.
You gotta hit the Twitter.
Yeah.
At least you gotta hit the Twitter. You gotta hit the Instagram. You have no idea the breadth of content that we're posting. That's right. It's different. You could get tidbits throughout the week.
It's unstoppable.
It's unstoppable. The Twitter fingers, they're going. The Instagram stories, they're going. The shit posts. It's a different medium, so it allows for us to do different things.
That's right. And then that's on theory of content creation right there. So you can follow us on all of those platforms. You can also leave us a 5-star review on Apple.
Yes.
We got 2 of them to read today.
We do, and they're lovely.
Absolutely.
And this first one from Mick Kingus, best political podcast, period. I've been saying this for a long time. I first discovered the boys on TikTok 3 years ago and became an on and off again listener. I get distracted very easily. Until the election last year, I now listen to every episode when it drops and am a proud Patreon supporter. Jeremy and Gage are simply the best when it comes to breaking down the news cycles with humor and sharp leftist takes. It can be difficult to keep a level head in these times of chaos and conservative family members, but I can always count on Hiddo for much needed affirmation that others are just as concerned about the state of our country and world as I am. I recommend checking out their recent episode interviewing Abdul El Sayed, which has inspired me to volunteer for his Senate campaign in my great state of Michigan. Shout out welcome. Shout out the review, shout out inspiring the volunteering, and also shout out you for hopefully going to them and being like, head in the office sent me.
Welcome. You're welcome, Dr. El Sayed. Exactly. This is us helping you in your campaign. Yes. So we earned you one volunteer.
And once you get that seat, you know who to kick back to.
You know who to give kickbacks to.
Exactly.
And I'm talking bribes.
I'm talking bribes. I'm talking money. I'm talking advocating for amendments within budgets for subsidies for podcasters. That's what this new Hiddo Bend is all about.
Yeah. Speaking of sharp leftist takes, you know what I saw resurface this week?
What'd you see?
My you still have to vote for Joe Biden video. From November 23. It didn't resurface in a way that's like people were commenting again. Yeah. But somebody made like a compilation of like these leftists are actually just liberals. And
you made it in there?
I made it in there when I said literally the next like clip was like, I say this as a socialist, but whatever, man.
Did the video, was the video popping?
I don't think it was like popping. It was like a couple thousand likes, probably.
Oh yeah, what a flop. We knew when I'm in my flop era. That's crazy. Oh no, my god.
Just, I don't really know what the thesis of the video was. It was just showing a bunch of different creators, and then it was them saying like, yeah, you should do harm reduction voting, or yeah, you should like not.
Harm reduction voting bangs though.
Yeah. There's also been a lot of like weird leftist infighting around Iran recently, so I think that might have folded into it as well.
That was probably the catalyst of the video, and you've just been living rent free in somebody's head for a while.
Well, if the catalyst of the video was Christian divine drama, then I'm glad we exist in that ecosystem. You know what I mean?
True.
So I'll take it.
True. Yeah. Big shouts out. There was a while where whenever I would like search for Head in the Office in the TikTok search, one of the first videos was the Stitch, and I was like, oh man,
most vindicated man in history. This second and last review from I Am In 786, the #1 political podcast. They say, first off, I'd like to condemn Hamas and all forms of political violence. I found this podcast a couple months ago, and since then I have been listening regularly. You guys are my favorite tertiary news source.
Heavy on that.
And I appreciate hearing a more progressive take on things, especially with the mess that is our political media right now. It is nice to have a bit of sanity in this environment that seems to embrace the opposite. About the interviews, I'd like to see you guys look for a bit more depth on the answers of their interviewees. I really like that you guys are bringing them on, but on the last one, I kind of felt like the lieutenant governor wasn't really answering your questions, and I didn't come away from it learning what his ideas for the future were. This podcast is truly my favorite, though, and I look forward to episodes every week.
That's entirely valid. That's part of us getting better at interviews. It was our first one with like a elected politician that's currently in office right now, like the lieutenant governor, somewhat of a big deal. So it's a little intimidating for a guy like me.
And I don't even know if it was like so much intimidation. It was one, we get a limited amount of time with like elected officials. We had like an hour-long interview that we did with the people from Fund My Future, but like they're doing nonprofit stuff. Like they got all the time in the world.
They're lucky us.
But like with elected officials, especially people running for office actively, like you're only going to get them for 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance between how much do you want to press on one thing and how much do you want to get through the questions.
Yeah.
That it just involves experience.
I think we tried to press on it in a way that ensures we get more interviews in the future from like just candidates generally, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because we don't have the backing of mainstream media. If we push too hard or if we're just like outright rude, then people just won't come onto the show.
That's valid.
Like we're not Tucker, you know. We don't get.
Yeah, I can't get away with that.
Yeah, but I appreciate you guys letting us know what you thought about the interviews. I just referenced it, but make sure you check out the interview we did last Thursday. That was on the ballot proposals that are coming to the great state of Michigan. And if you're a Michigander, which some of you are, I'd highly encourage you to check that out because lots of good information.
You can call Charlie.
Yeah, you can call Charlie. The phone number appears on screen.
Call Charlie. We have the phone number on there that you gave to us. You could call Charlie and volunteer.
Also, we're on video on Spotify now. This has been a feature for a long time that we just never used.
Oh, that's true.
Hey, Spotify listeners.
Shout out y'all looking at us, I guess, vertically, kind of.
Leave us a comment if you're on Spotify.
Yeah.
Say what's up. What'd you eat for lunch?
Cool. And don't forget to rate on Spotify as well. We need to start hawking those too, even though we can't. We need to start hawking the Spotify comments.
Yeah, many people are saying this.
That's what I've been saying for a while.
Anyways, let's get into the news.
Speaking of how did people get away with things?
Yeah, we got to talk about the bill a little bit later on. We'll talk about Alligator Auschwitz, and then we'll talk about Noah and the weather stuff in Texas and all that. But first, we got to start off with the bill because, as we expected, last week the Republican budget bill passed the Senate, then it passed the House after initially being after this process being like initiated in the House, and it was signed into law by the president on the 4th of July.
Corny.
Are we feeling independent, folks?
No.
Are we feeling liberated?
I'm feeling liberated from my body. I'm feeling like my life has been liberated from my body.
Liberated from my money, maybe.
Liberated from my money, exactly.
Yeah, the bill was only made worse and worse as it made its way through Congress. Some people speculated that, like, getting into the Senate, the bill would be softened because there are more holdouts here. Turns out Josh Hawley does not give a fuck about Medicaid.
No, I'm saying he instantly folded.
Under no pressure.
There was not, like, one instance where I was like, where articles were popping out like, the GOP is super worried about Josh Hawley. What's Josh Hawley going to do? Just instant yes vote.
Yeah, he said in May, like, we shouldn't touch Medicaid. 2 months later, fucking voting to gut it more than the initial proposal. Like, the initial proposal was $700 billion. It got up to $1 trillion by the end of the process.
$1 trillion. That's $100 billion every year.
We're going to talk about the way in which Medicaid works a little bit more in depth because I've seen a lot of people confused. But Medicaid's an entitlement program. This means that if you qualify, it has to pay out, right? Yeah. There isn't a specific amount allocated to Medicaid. It's just if you qualify for Medicaid, you get the money. And as we'll talk about, it's not like a check that you get in the mail. It's supplies and service.
The most important thing to understand about Medicaid is people are not getting money for this thing. Like, it's not even like stamp in the way that you can like get something and then go purchase something with it.
My point is that entitlements aren't distributed in such a way where it's like, here we have $2 trillion for Medicaid. That's all we're going to spend. The amount changes based on who's in the program, and they cut the program down by adding these work requirements and all this other stuff that we'll talk about. And that is just a cut to the amount that Medicaid will pay out to people, which is a cut for the purpose of entitlements.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people, I feel like, just aren't understanding. Like, entitlements, maybe it's complicated if you don't know politics, but like that's how entitlements work.
Real.
Like Social Security, same way. Medicare, same way. Like that's just how these programs go. Same with SNAP, that also got cut in this bill, of course. But the final House vote on the Senate version was 218 to 214, with all Democrats voting no, and Thomas Massey and Brian Fitzpatrick from Pennsylvania joining the Democrats. Rest in peace, Jerry Connolly. I make that note in here because if we had those Democrats,
there were like 3 Democrats that have died, right?
Yeah.
All in the House.
Yeah, it would have been 217 to 218, but then we just got to flip one guy.
Yeah.
We flip one more guy.
And that could have been possible.
Yeah, but
we could have convinced Chip Roy that it didn't cut Medicaid enough. But I mean, eventually he got kind of what he wanted. He got more cuts.
Same thing with fucking Josh Hawley and Chip Roy. Like Chip Roy's like, this bill expends the deficit too much. I'm going to be a no on this bill. He said that on the initial version passed in the House.
Yeah.
And then it comes back, bigger deficit spending, and he votes for it.
What the fuck?
Nobody believes in anything.
What the fuck? And Marjorie Taylor Greene made a big stink about maybe not voting for this bill because of the AI regulation and like acted like she's taking a stand on the rest of this thing. The AI regulation gets cut out of the bill.
It did get cut.
By the parliamentarian, or maybe just an amendment happened. The AI regulation gets cut out of the bill and she's an instant yes. What the fuck, man?
No other hang-ups.
These people just get online. And Chip Roy especially, like, I don't want to say it pisses me off because that then it feels like I'm assuming that I thought that he was going to be principled when I know that Chip Roy, if anybody isn't going to be principled, he just likes to be annoying. But it's like he acts like he's this guy that really cares about economics and the deficit and spending more money. But once again, he's just like everybody else when it comes to it's only okay to spend money to give rich people more money. And if we're spending money on poor people or anything that helps even maybe the middle class, that's bad and we need to get rid of it. And I'll do anything I can to fund that.
Yeah. I mean, we got some astonishing votes too. Like Rand Paul voted no. Who was the other no vote?
God.
Was it Susan Collins in the Senate?
It might have been.
I think there were 3 no votes from Republicans. Lisa Murkowski ended up voting yes. And she was like, it was an agonizing process, bitch. Fuck off.
That's what I'm saying. She voted yes. She did get the carve out for Alaska. I don't know if it's based on non-contiguous states. I think it might be based on like employment rate or something.
Yeah, the non-contiguous thing was shot down.
Yeah, but there was still a way that they engineered it. So Alaska and I think Hawaii, but maybe Hawaii to a lesser extent, is exempt from the Medicaid and SNAP cuts, or at least exempt from the worst portions of that. And she goes on these press tours. She goes and talks to these reporters in the hallway. And she says, it was so painful to vote for this bill. I hope it doesn't pass when it goes to the House. You could have stopped it right here.
Oh, yeah. She was like, the House will send it back.
You were literally the person who was in the position to stop the bill. You were the one person who could have stopped the bill. Why are you kicking it to another body to do that? She constantly talks about not wanting to be a Republican anymore. She talks about how she's going to run as an independent in the next election, how she's going to do blah, 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 how she's done with the Republican Party. She's battled with Trump for like the last like 8 years or whatever. Mm-hmm. And now here she is just falling in line once again.
I feel like I have even less respect for like the Lisa Murkowskis and Josh Hawleys of the Republican Party, because it's like, yeah, Lindsey Graham's evil, but at least I know what he's going to do.
For sure. He's always going to vote for the worst thing.
Josh Hawley pretends to care about Medicaid. Lisa Murkowski pretends to care that this bill is going to kill a bunch of people. I like, at least Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell literally said like, oh, red states don't like it, they'll get over it.
And it's like
at least we know who these people are.
I guess there's something to be said about, yeah, she's protecting her constituents, but like, it's not like she was one of a couple holdouts that switched.
Yep.
She was the one holdout who could have stopped this bill.
Mm-hmm. And it's like the cuts are still coming for her state.
Yeah.
Like, sure, I think she got like an extension so they don't apply right away or at the same time as all the other states. And there was some other like fuckery they did in there to benefit Alaska. But your state is not going to be immune to what's happening.
No.
Like, it wasn't just like every other state except Alaska is getting Medicaid cut. They'll come for you too.
And it's also just the culture of the GOP that causes something like this bill to pass is fundamentally corrosive and poisonous to the country. And Alaska will feel those knockoff effects no matter if they're exempted from the Medicaid and SNAP cuts or what.
Yeah.
Later we're going to talk about like FEMA might go away. Mm-hmm. The current GOP doesn't want to govern. They want to kill you.
Like United Healthcare operates in Alaska.
Oh,
like you're going to feel premiums go up. You know, like it's not going to be like something that's just confined to all the other states. Shit's coming for you too. But now that we have the final version, we can get into what the numbers really are and what effect they're going to have. And boy, it's fucking diabolical.
Yeah, it is.
It is really bad. And I just want to make one thing clear, right? This budget bill is wildly unpopular.
Nobody likes this.
Nobody fucks with this bill whatsoever.
The only people that like this are people with like a red 88 in their Twitter bio or people that just Nazi post on Twitter. The only people that like this are people who think that the only people getting caught off Medicaid are illegals.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's like when people have the provisions actually explained to them in a nonpartisan way, they do not like this bill. This is one of the most unpopular budgets or just bills generally that I think a president maybe has ever passed.
It's supposed to be politically toxic to pass Medicaid cuts. Mm-hmm. Trump said 2 months ago, I think that he either said 2 months ago, you can't expect to win and do Medicaid cuts, or he just said that he said both of these things. I can't remember what was 2 months ago, but he said, I will veto any bill that cuts Medicaid. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he's fucking lying because all that guy does is lie through his teeth, but like, you're not supposed to be able to get away with this. Yep. Why are they getting away with this?
And it's like there was nothing Democrats could do in this process. Maybe they could have messaged better. Like that's always a thing Democrats could do better. But there was nothing procedurally that Democrats could do to actually stop this. This bill or a form of this bill was always going to pass because Republicans want to kill you.
Yeah.
Because they hate you and your family and they want your granny to die.
There's like some secret thing that they do in the GOP when you win a primary and run in a seat that ensures that the only people that can survive here are people who just absolutely want to kill you, even if it's to the expense of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm editorializing a little bit, but like, can you explain this any other way?
No, it's really a Republican healthcare plan. Die quickly.
That's what it is. Presented with stats that say this will make life worse for everyone. This will raise insurance premiums for everyone, whether you're on an ACA plan, whether you're on a private plan. If you're on Medicaid, you're getting kicked off health insurance, and either your wallet is going to be absolutely raided by the end of this, or you're just going to fucking die.
Yeah.
They have been presented with this information, and yet they still voted yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. Lisa Murkowski once again said she recognizes that this is gonna like kill people, and she's like, "Well, I got mine."
Yeah. Well, getting into the meat of this bill here, Medicaid cuts are fucking enormous, bigger than what they initially were. They ended up being around like $1.1 trillion or something like that, just over $1 trillion. 31% of the cuts come in the form of work requirements. I'm referencing an NYT a New York Times article that was put out, an opinion piece that just had like different portions of the bill summarized in graphs. So link will be in the description if you want to look at that yourself. But 31% of the cuts in Medicaid are just work requirements. So this is people being unenrolled essentially because they don't fill out the paperwork, or they can't get past the hurdles that the paperwork presents them, whatever. 30% of the cuts is just making it harder for states to fund Medicaid. This is stuff like capping the amount of taxes that states can impose on providers, for example. This does nothing to address the problem that Mike Johnson kept talking about, where it's a 29-year-old able-bodied man that's sitting at home playing video games rather than going to work. Yeah, this just makes it harder for states to get money.
Nothing about reducing federal match rates has anything to do with waste, fraud, and abuse in any capacity. Literally. You are just limiting the amount of money that states can get from the federal government to fund the program.
Yeah, and the rest is just making it like impossible to prove eligibility.
Yeah.
Different like paperwork cuts and stuff like that, or just making it harder to prove eligibility in general.
And it's also just untold the expense that will be had with all of these new eligibility requirements. Like, yes, we are cutting Medicaid. Yes, eventually, because we're kicking X amount of people off of the service, we're going to have to pay for less people. You're still going to have to pay for more people to work at Medicaid offices, or you'll just have to overwork your current staff to do these draconian eligibility requirements. Mm-hmm. There's no reason for it. Nothing about anything that they're doing has anything to do with waste, fraud, and abuse. And I think it's funny that I haven't heard much about waste, fraud, and abuse from them over the last 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Over the course of the bill actually being passed, it seems like they just completely dropped that argument because they don't have to worry about being beholden to their constituents. Well, they don't have to worry about goddamn anything. They don't have to make any arguments. They can just do it.
Well, and there are some people that legitimately think that these Medicaid cuts are only kicking immigrants off the program.
It's insane.
There's 11 million people that will lose access to Medicaid over the next 10 years. And there are people that legitimately think that entire number is undocumented immigrants.
We're not living on the same planet. Mm-mm. We're not living in the same country if you think that that's the situation.
I can't tell if this is something they tell themselves to justify the pain that the party they voted for is going to cause, or if they legitimately have deluded themselves into thinking that 11 million undocumented immigrants are on Medicaid when they can't get Medicaid anyways.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just how do you contend with this?
And it's just the whole mass deportation thing, illegal immigrants have become the crux of apparently every single issue that happens ever.
Yeah.
I go, and it's not just Medicaid cuts, it's SNAP cuts. There was a video that went viral on conservative Twitter of a family of 5 going to Costco, Walmart, and Target and shopping with EBT and whatnot. And people were saying that blah, 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 lazy, get your ass to work, liberal or some shit like that, when that's dumb and corny. And 2, people are like, yeah, there's this, and also all the immigrants on these programs. Everywhere you go, when there's an issue, there's conservatives saying that immigrants are the ones that are causing the issue. Yeah. And it's looking real Germany.
Yeah, no, it literally is. I mean, it's scapegoating, right?
Yeah.
You identify a problem or you want a pretext to do something evil and you blame immigrants for having to do it.
Yeah.
That's literally all it is.
And people just uncritically eat that shit up.
Yeah, and there's this broader misconception about Medicaid that there's millions of people on the program that are just getting healthcare without having to work. First of all, the stats, and Republicans know this, the stats already bear out that the vast majority of people on Medicaid are already working, or they're a primary caregiver, or they're in school, or whatever else it might be, right? So it's already wrong.
The people who aren't working aren't people 18 to 25. Mm-hmm. It may be older people who have been working a blue-collar job their entire life and are at a point where they can't really go out and work in the field that they used to, but they exist in a gray area where they can't work in the field that they used to because it's too demanding on their body, but they aren't quite ill enough to qualify for disability.
Yeah.
So they need things like Medicaid. These are older people. These are people that are 55. Maybe they're not old enough to collect Social Security. These are people who are 40 and just have maybe bad bodies, maybe a little disabled, but not medically disabled, and the definition of it all.
Yeah, and like I said at the beginning of the episode here, Medicaid doesn't just send people checks. You have Medicaid applied to your, say, hospital bill, for example, if you are eligible for it at the point of service, or you enroll previously, and when you go to a doctor, because people are always going to go to doctors, then Medicaid comes in and covers up your bills. The only thing that these cuts do is prevent people from having their health care paid for at the point of service. That's what this does.
Nobody qualifies for Medicaid and goes out and says, oh, I'm going to go get this surgery. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go get this surgery because the government's paying for it. I'm going to go get a nose job with my Medicaid. That's not what happens. Yeah. And it's fundamentally asinine to think that that's what happens. The only thing that Medicaid enables somebody who's on it to do that they wouldn't be able to do before is preventative care. Yeah. Is actually go to the fucking doctor before a problem gets so bad that they may need a surgical intervention.
Or even other than that, we'll talk about how like your premiums are going to go up as like a buyer of private health insurance in a little bit. But like people are always going to go to the hospital. If somebody gets like hit by a car or they start having a heart attack or they've been sick for like a week on end, they're gonna go to the hospital. It's what we would want people to do.
It's what hospitals are for.
It's the purpose of hospitals. Somebody's going to pay for it. Mm-hmm. And if it's not Medicaid coming in, which is what the program was designed to do, those costs will be shifted onto somebody else. And the hospital's not going to eat it. The insurance company's not just going to eat it, because why would they? They're privately run ventures. Why would they do that?
They don't have to, and they get to do whatever they want.
Because the source of the problem here is the fucking providers, is the middlemen, is the insurance groups.
In fact, when insurance companies do maybe decide to eat something, like United Healthcare decided that they were going to pay for more surgeries after Brian Thompson got fucking killed, and then was it BlackRock that owns them?
Their shareholders sued them.
Their shareholders sued them and said they were providing too much care. So even if the people running the health insurance company want to eat some of the extra costs, the people who they're ultimately beholden to will say, no, you can't do that. You need to fuck this guy's wallet.
Dude, it's like so comically evil. I don't know why we tolerate this.
Neither do I. Everything that's going on right now is just evil. That's why I say the Senate just incarnated evil. Mm-hmm. The goddamn legislature is incarnating evil. They're doing rituals in the back that we couldn't concoct.
And even if we just say, let's put all that aside for a moment, right? Because that's too much thinking for Republicans.
Yeah.
Let's just focus on the work requirements, right? You'll say, imposing work requirements just puts a barrier in front of people so they can't get access to the care that they are eligible for. Because, like, how do you prove a disability? Is the government actually going to believe you? Mm-hmm. How much money are we going to pay to actually go through and double check people's eligibility to ensure there's not like false negatives or whatever it may be? They might just say like, oh, you just think poor people are stupid and can't fill out paperwork. No, it's like forcing someone to do a tax return once a month.
Yes.
Do you want to do a fucking tax return once a month to get access to health care?
You'd probably want to put a goddamn gun in your mouth if you had to do that.
Exactly.
Like, it's ridiculous, and it's also just underscores the fact that, once again, these gray areas when it comes to people who aren't quite disabled, sometimes it takes years for someone to fight for a disability claim.
Exactly.
What do you think they're doing during those years where they're disabled, but they can't quite prove it yet? Mm-hmm. They're struggling. They're not able to work. They need things like Medicaid. And also, something that we bring up all the time, a lot of the people who get on Medicaid are on it temporarily. Nobody in any large amount of numbers lives on the program forever. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be a safety net that a lot of people use when they maybe lose their job unexpectedly and fall on tough times for a couple months, and then they get into their job and get out of the program.
Because your healthcare is tied to your employment.
Because your healthcare is tied to your employment. And COBRA is expensive.
Yeah.
COBRA is ridiculous.
Yeah, no. So it's a lot of nonsense, and I'm not happy to see it. Also, Georgia and Arkansas have tried implementing Medicaid work requirements before, and both of them utter disaster. Thousands of people lost their health care. There was no improvement in employment whatsoever that like actual statisticians could track. And on top of that, I think it was in Georgia, the portal to submit your working hours was open 9 to 5 during the week.
Motherfucker,
that's when you're working.
Sorry, I gotta go on my lunch break to prove to the government that I'm working. Yeah, right now.
And apparently the portal would just like crash all the time, right? And that's like in the ideal circumstance, work requirements pose an obstacle to people, but in its practical application, it will be a fucking disaster.
It's almost like the GOP saw that and said, "Oh yeah, exactly. We can use work requirements as like a culture war excuse, and it will just kick people off because we don't give a shit." And that's exactly what they did.
It's what it is,
because they don't give a shit, and they passed the "we're going to kill you" bill.
Yeah. In these Medicaid cuts, also they included a $50 billion fund for rural hospitals to stay open because a lot of rural hospitals straight up rely on Medicaid. This to me is just an admission of guilt.
Yes.
Like, you know that the cuts that you're doing, the sheer size of the cuts here, which I think a lot of people are having a hard time conceptualizing, but the sheer size of these cuts, you know, will just straight up shutter rural hospitals.
Absolutely.
So you include this $50 billion fund to keep them open, to keep someone like Lisa Murkowski happy. But they got to know that, like, that's not enough money.
No.
It's not nearly enough money to get $50 billion for the entire country. Like,
that's
I know
insane.
Most people live near population centers, but for the people that live in rural places, they're very spread out. So you need hospitals that can connect those people together.
Yeah.
And $50 billion is not enough to cover everybody.
Like we got a big country with a lot of rural hospitals. There's a lot of rural areas in the country, and although there aren't enough rural hospitals, which is already an issue, there's going to be even less as a result of this. And honestly, bringing it back to the beginning, there's already less rural like OBGYNs because of the abortion cuts. In red states, like maternity wards have fled. People have had to shutter like maternity services, OBGYNs and whatnot, because it's toxic to practice there. And now the whole fucking hospital might close down because of what the GOP is doing. Yeah. They're a goddamn sickness on this country.
Yeah, it's like rural hospitals straight up do just rely on Medicaid. Somebody was like arguing in some comment section that I saw that it was like, hospitals and providers already overcharge you, like $25 to put on a Band-Aid type shit. So taking Medicaid away will actually just force them to charge you more accurate rates. And it's like, brother, again, it's a system of privatized care. Why would they not charge you as much as they can?
Exactly.
They're going to charge you as much as they can, or, and this is the next point we're getting into, they will shift the cost onto other people paying premiums through private insurance.
No, wait. Maybe I'm misunderstanding the argument here, but he said that blah, 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 now without Medicaid, they're going to have to charge like regular rates.
Yeah.
That doesn't make up for the budget shortfall.
Well, that's the other point is like Medicaid is so enormous and so many hospitals and providers, nursing homes and so on rely on Medicaid so much that there is no way to make that up.
Oh, you guys lost a lot of money in your budget? Charge less. What the fuck? Am I misunderstanding something? Maybe I am, but Jesus fucking Christ, man. But it's like rural hospitals are going to close. And once again, our premiums are going to go up. And your premiums are especially going to go up if you're on an ACA plan. A huge benefit of the ACA's expansion of Medicaid was that it took poorer, often like more high-risk people, because remember, those two things are very much correlated. Yep. The poorer you are, the worse health outcomes you have. The more care that you need, because surprise, surprise, it costs money to be healthy.
Health is wealth.
Health is wealth, people. Health is what Maha or whatnot. I don't know. I'm not going to, whatever. A lot of those people were taken out of the risk pool for ACA marketplace plans when Medicaid was expanded through the ACA because they then qualified for Medicaid. They didn't have to worry about paying premiums. The ACA didn't have to worry about having them in their risk pool. Now that they will have to re-enter that risk pool, the ACA will once again have to calculate the risk associated with them. And because they're poor, because they qualified for fucking Medicaid, most likely, they're going to be higher risk patients. Yep. They're going to most likely demand more care. That is going to cause them to raise rates on everyone else in an ACA plan because they have to make up for the money that's spent to maintain their margins.
And that's just how insurance works.
Exactly.
Like when the risk of your insurance pool goes up, you charge people more because you have to be prepared for that.
And now your premiums on ACA plans will go up to recoup that extra costs. This isn't just isolated to ACA premiums. If you're a, economics head, a big supply and demand guy.
That's me.
Private health insurers will now not have to compete with ACA plans at the same capacity. ACA plans were lowered because of Medicaid expansion. Private insurers had to compete with that. Maybe they didn't lower their rates. Maybe they lowered their rates only a little bit. I'm not going to give it to them there. But now they have an excuse to raise their rates because they don't have to worry about people being priced out of their plans and going to the ACA marketplace instead.
And like I already think that like health insurance companies are leeches and should be purged from the face of the earth, right?
Yes.
But I might even buy the excuse that like, look, Medicaid is gone. Hospitals are going to be charging insurance companies more to make up for these shortfalls. So now we have to increase premiums on your plan.
Well, like we're in a situation where they have
even outside of the ACA.
Exactly. Like I am operating. It's the same reason I fucked with the court for like 2 months. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I am operating within a world where I cannot have my ideal outcomes. I recognize that these companies are private enterprises for some stupid fucking reason. So they have to maintain margins. Yeah. They have a fiduciary responsibility. They're required by law to like maintain margins and bring money to their shareholders. They have to raise rates if something like this happens. And that's something I understand when I look at the, like, I don't know, fucking theory of capitalism in the world we live in. That's certainly something that conservatives understand because that's the world that they want. And yet they're still passing this bill.
Yep. Like, even if you don't give a fuck about people losing Medicaid, which is surprisingly a thing I've seen, it's like, why should I care? I have to pay for my own healthcare. They should too, type shit.
Yeah.
Classic, just rugged individualism. But those hospitals or nursing homes or whatever, right? They're going to have a number of people that were on Medicaid that now just straight up won't pay them because they don't have the money to, right? Healthcare is too expensive. Where are they going to make up that shortfall? Off of your dumbass.
Exactly.
Because we have an entity. This is how our healthcare system works, right? Like we have a private entity or a private like class of entities that are going to get their money They're going to overcharge the government, or they're going to overcharge your insurance company, or they're going to overcharge you. If they can't overcharge you, they're going for the insurance companies, and or the insurance companies are going to get their money somehow. And how are they going to get it? They're going to charge your dumbass or other people even more.
Exactly. That's the system we live in, and that's the system these people claim to fuck with.
Yeah.
And even if you don't fuck with the supply and demand argument for why non-ACA plans are going to go up, their premiums are going to go up, this bill tightens verification requirements for premium subsidies on ACA marketplace plans. Mm-hmm. That means that people are going to be kicked off because the verification is tighter. That means that if these people can't afford private insurance, now they will go get private insurance if they can. And because they were on an ACA plan in the first place, they're in a higher risk pool because they're fucking poorer. Mm-hmm. Like there's like 3 tiers of healthcare here: the Medicaid for the poorest, ACA plans for the less poor, and private plans for everybody else.
Yep.
As you get rid of the lower tiers, the people with the worst health outcomes are getting absorbed by the next one. Mm-hmm. And you're gonna have to fucking pay more.
This just wouldn't be a problem if we had a Medicare for all system.
If we had a single payer system.
Like there wouldn't be such a thing as like overcharging the government, because the government's the only buyer, a single payer,
now,
if you will.
Yeah, I was gonna say, now imagine if we have one payer.
Could you imagine that? Just one person negotiating rather than every fucking employer negotiating on the behalf of their workplace?
Dude, what a world.
And instead of your fucking healthcare being tied to your employment, Jesus Christ, dude. What a backwards country.
What a backwards country.
Anyway, Medicaid cuts.
Yeah, that's what we got for Medicaid cuts. Those take place in December 2026, literally a month after the fucking midterms.
Yeah, so that's $1 trillion in Medicaid cuts, just about. Another big thing from this bill, of course, was tax cuts. And these numbers have been moving around a lot, but now we got solid numbers because the bill is law.
Yeah, keep in mind, the Medicaid cuts are to fund this.
Mm-hmm.
Like
$1 trillion.
$1 trillion was taken away from Medicaid. 11 million people will be kicked off of insurance so that we could get this.
Yep. And the biggest, the biggest price tag in this bill is the $2.2 trillion in tax cuts that is dedicated to making the 2017 tax cuts permanent. Of course, those primarily benefited the richest people. This bill is no different with the other tax cuts it piles on. There's a $1.4 trillion in an increase to the standard deduction. There's an $800 billion dedication to a $200 increase individually for the child tax credit, which is basically nothing per individual. But whatever. Maybe it'll make up for losing Medicaid. Who knows? The no tax on tips and no tax on overtime is in the bill in the same way we've talked about before. So very insubstantial. Costs about $152 billion total.
Yeah, I think the cap on no tax on tips is like $25,000, and the cap on no tax on overtime is $12,500.
Yeah.
So it's like the people who are relying on overtime make a lot more in overtime than that.
Yeah. And like on the overtime, again, it's only the and a half that you are not getting taxed on, right? Like you still have to pay taxes on the original amount that you make, your hourly wage or salary or whatever. And then for the no tax on tips, there's a lot of like misinformation floating around out there, but there is a lot of like fucky stuff going on with however they calculate that. Like it's not just simply, I received this much, therefore don't tax me. There's a very complicated system going on, and I wouldn't be surprised if people get screwed out of even getting this benefit.
Damn, the tax code is complicated. What a surprise.
Yeah. These tax cuts are enormous, obviously skew heavily to the rich. There are all kinds of graphs you can look up that just show it, like household resources for the bottom going down, household resources for the top going up like 2% or something like that.
I saw something like the top 0.01% of households are going to get like a fucking $200,000 back as a result of this. Whereas the bottom, like, I think the bottom quintile of the poorest 20% of Americans ends up paying like an extra $500.
They lose $500. Yeah. I got some numbers in here later, but these tax cuts are paid for, of course, by the Medicaid cuts that we talked about. Reduction in Inflation Reduction Act tax credits, like the green energy tax credits and stuff like that, and also making it harder to pay back your student loan. And I will get into the numbers here. This is legitimately one of the ways they try to pay for this bill. Obviously, there's deficit spending happening, as we talked about. But one of the ways they try to pay for this bill is through cracking down on student borrowers.
They love to get on here and say, like, oh, blah, 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 college is too expensive, woke indoctrination. We're going to make it more expensive. We're going to make it more expensive. And once again, this is just another example of conservatives getting into the government, saying the government doesn't work well, making the government not working well, and then saying the government doesn't work well to continue the positive feedback loop.
And here explicitly on the student debt stuff, like, they are just making people's lives worse. Our lives. I got student debt.
I got student debt too. I pay it every month.
But we'll get into those numbers in just a second. I do want to mention that the GOP keeps trying to sell this budget bill as not increasing the deficit because they just extend existing tax cuts.
Which is funny because they're trying to bill this as not increasing the deficit because it's an extension of existing tax cuts. Yeah. But they're also trying to bill it as a tax cut. But it's not. You're not going to notice anything except for like other fuckery that makes things worse for us and better for rich people. Because mostly what's going to change is the amount of money you lose overall because of Medicaid and SNAP cuts for the poorest people among us. That's how we get these new numbers. Like the tax numbers aren't changing.
Tax numbers don't change.
The tax numbers don't change.
There are new cuts for like corporations and shit.
Well, exactly. There's also the new flow through entity cut too, the new QBI deduction. But like, you can't simultaneously say that this isn't adding to the deficit because it's an existing thing, and also that this is a massive cut that's going to help everybody else because it's an existing thing. And
it's like
they took the worst argument from both ones.
even if we go with the argument that like this doesn't increase the deficit because we're just extending what's on the books right now, the money still isn't there.
Yeah, that's the point. And also like the way that the budget was calculated for the previous 10-year budget calculations did not include this.
Yeah.
So the way that you do budgets as a body, it doesn't work. Like the logic isn't internal.
Yeah, and the other way I saw them trying to bill this is like this won't increase deficits, therefore like, you know, Chip Roy and whatnot should vote for this, is like Howard Nutlick and fucking Scott Bessent were on the daily or the talk shows, and they were saying some shit like, well, you know, maybe, you know, the Yale Law School isn't looking at this and analyzing it and getting growth out of it, but or isn't analyzing it and seeing that like this bill is going to be paid for, but we see growth coming. And because growth will happen economically, people will pay, people's incomes will go up and they'll end up paying more in taxes, and this bill will pay for itself over the course of 10 years.
I need to like...
The problem is that nobody fucking agrees with you.
I was going to say, maybe I need to dig harder into the numbers, but from what I've seen, there was no measurable bump in like economic activity or anything from the 2017 tax cuts during the Trump years. The bumps came afterward.
And it's just trickle-down economics, right?
Yeah.
Because my question is like, okay, you extend these tax cuts and you do all this other shit that's supposed to, quote-unquote, stimulate the economy. It's classic like Reaganomics stuff that never actually fucking worked. But like, you cut taxes on the richest people. Who are you getting the tax revenue from? Because you just cut their taxes.
Yeah.
They're going to hide it, and they're not going to pay that. Like, the corporations aren't going to pay their tax rate. So even if they are doing a lot better, who are you getting the money from? You don't believe in taxing the rich. So what are we talking about? Like, the average person's household resources will improve because of all the analyses we're seeing. People are losing money. So who are you taxing more? Where's the revenue coming from?
They want to make your life worse.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of that, let's talk student loans.
Let's talk student loans. I think this one will resonate for our demographic.
Yeah. So under this Republican budget bill, average student loan repayments, like per month, could double or triple depending on how much money you make.
I don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Under Biden's plan, the average person making between $40,000 and $50,000 a year was paying $62 a month. Under Trump's budget bill, that will jump to an average of $167 a month.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's
tripling the amount that you have to pay. Despite your income not changing. Same income.
Same income.
Triple the amount that you have to pay.
Same old squeeze. In fact, it might even get worse for you.
For those making $60,000 to $70,000 a year, average repayment will jump from $145 under Joe Biden to $350 a month.
That's
under
a car
Trump's plan.
payment.
Yeah.
That's a car payment.
And the numbers just keep going up. Like, the more money you make, it's like, I think once you get past like $100,000 a year, you're paying like $900 a month on your student loans.
And these are also just like average numbers too.
Yeah. And like, this is the new income-driven repayment plan. Like, this is what this is. So,
yeah, this is the plan you were on if you were struggling.
Now, do you want to guess? Again, price tag for this bill, a deficit that they're running for this bill is like $3 trillion.
Yeah.
Do you want to guess how much that this generates? We are cracking down on people.
Well, surely it's significant, right?
Forcing them to repay. This generates $278 billion out of the $3 trillion deficit we're running.
The fuck, man?
It literally doesn't do anything, like, at all. It just hurts people individually.
It's always, we can't tax the rich, but as long as we get that money from poor people in literally every other way, it's completely fine.
Yep.
Like, why is there no negative connotation associated with something with this like there is with like taxes? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
yeah, and it's
up.
like, of course, cracking down on student borrowers explicitly isn't hurting the rich because the rich don't have student loans.
And didn't they also do something with Grad Plus loans? Like, aren't they also like altering Grad Plus loans? And aren't they also doing, I feel like they're doing something else with student loans that just makes everything worse as well.
Yeah, probably something crazy with interest rates.
It's the everything worse bill.
It's the everything worse
bill.
bill.
Did they? I wonder if they ended up going through with getting rid of like Stafford loans.
I can't remember.
What the fuck, man? Why? Why can they get away with this? This is bad for everyone.
So on the economics here, the bottom 40% of earners in this country will, on the whole, lose under this budget bill because of the SNAP and Medicaid cuts. The top 20% of earners will see a 2.3% increase in annual income, which of course is a lot of money if you're already making a lot of money, right?
Yeah, if you're in the top $200,000, that's like $23,000.
If you're in the top 20%, 2%'s a lot.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're in the bottom 20%, then 2% of your income is still like a lot to you.
No, that's like $6,000.
It's like it's a reduction, you know what I'm talking about? And I have a quote from the New York Times here, quote, "This bill makes permanent a regime in which the richest fifth of American households, those with annual incomes of $120,000 and above, will get an average benefit of 2.3% in their income, or $6,055. In contrast, the fifth of Americans with the least wealth will suffer an estimated loss of $560, largely because of the effect of cuts to Medicaid and food stamps."
Nice.
So there it is. Just plain numbers, plain language.
This is a wealth transfer.
Yeah.
Like, this is literally, we are taking from you and making you spend more money on things that you wouldn't otherwise have spent more money on for, just so that people who are already doing way better than you and have way more than you can have more.
Well, explicitly, like, we are cutting programs that the working class relies on to pay for tax cuts for the richest people. Like, we are taking social services that you have access to, and we are giving that money, and more that we have to borrow, by the way, to the richest people in the country.
These are tax cuts that don't benefit you.
Yeah.
Just like straight up. Straight up, they're taking money from you to give to like the guy you probably hate.
Yeah.
To give to your boss.
To give to your boss. You want your boss to be getting richer?
That's what I'm saying. You want your boss to be even more annoying? You want your boss to pull up in a new convertible, huh?
Another one.
Another one. It's fucked up.
We got to talk about ICE, though. ICE is a big winner.
Yeah, man.
In this budget.
ICE won way more than I even thought they were going to win.
ICE is the biggest law enforcement agency in the country now.
Why?
Under this bill. They're going to hire, I think, like 10,000 new guys.
10,000 new guys?
Yeah.
10,000 of the worst fucking people.
There's a lot of money dedicated to like retention bonuses and signing bonuses and shit like that.
Oh, lovely. So we're going to pay like ICE agents more than doctors to go and just bust into homes and kidnap abuelas.
On the whole, it's $170 billion for DHS, a lot of it going to the ICE operations, of course. From the Brennan Center, quote, "The legislation makes U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement the largest federal law enforcement agency, giving it $45 billion for building new detention centers, in addition to $14 billion for deportation operations. It also includes $3.5 billion for reimbursements to state and local governments for costs related to immigration-related enforcement in detention."
What the fuck?
So lots of money. That's your money.
That's your money.
That's taxpayer money.
That's your money going to the Gestapo.
Yep. I feel like I need to note that ICE relies a lot on private prisons to do their detention and deportation operations.
Uh-huh.
And under this bill, because ICE gets so much funding, private prisons are huge winners.
Private prisons are, and the people that run them are the worst people in the world.
Yeah.
And I don't think that can go understated. I don't even think that that's that much of an exaggeration.
Yeah.
These people, by virtue of what they do, are operating on the most perverse incentive. Mm-hmm. To run a private prison means that you get yours by taking away other people's freedom. Mm-hmm. And operating in self-interest, which is what you have to assume, one, under capitalism, and two, because a lot of these motherfuckers are evil and will do that, they want more people in prisons.
Yeah.
And they don't care how they do that. To have a system that relies so heavily on private prisons is to have a system where you are relying on people that, are, in a roundabout way, are pro-crime.
Yeah, like ICE couldn't do what it does without these private prisons. And I have a quote from, I believe this is the same Brennan Center article, quote, "In May, the CEO of private prison company Core Civic told investors, quote, "Never in our 42-year company history have we had so much activity and demand for our services as we are seeing right now. This budget bill would solidify the vision for Core Civic, GEO Group, and other firms that manage and own immigration detention centers and transportation subsidiaries."
Never have we had so much activity and demand for our services. What are you, like Scrub Daddy? Like they're acting like they're selling a product that is popping on TikTok now.
Yeah.
They're acting like they just hit a trend cycle and are getting more market share. These are people having their life stripped from them. Mm-hmm. You are locking people up in cages like animals to make a buck.
Yeah.
And you're talking about it like it's just some product that you're selling at Meijer.
Yeah, and right now, 70% of people detained by ICE currently have no criminal record.
Oh, big fucking shock there.
So it's like so what we're doing is we are putting a massive amount of funding behind ICE, more than in this country's history, more than any law enforcement group in this country's history. That money is going to go towards private prisons to lock up people that have done nothing wrong. It's fucking insane.
And it's also, private prisons should just like straight up be illegal.
Oh, yeah.
There's plenty of things that go out there and say that they aren't even cheaper and more efficient than public prisons, which,
of course.
It makes fucking sense.
$1 million for a bowl.
They necessarily have to make a buck. They necessarily have to make money off this process, whereas the federal government would not have to. Like, they just shouldn't be a thing. And they're the worst.
They use the money that they get from the government to then go and lobby the government for harsher punishments for crimes so that more people get funneled into the prison system because they get paid by the person that they hold.
The only people that benefit from a system where we have private prisons and are reliant on private prisons is the people who own those private prisons and senators who lobby to lock you up for 40 years because you got caught with some weed. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. This is a net negative on society.
Yeah.
I swear.
It's like any layman could see how this creates a network of perverse incentives. Like to have a private, to make money putting people in jail, obviously you're going to make sure you get more people to put in jail.
Like, do you think that the people that run private prisons are really going to go out there and advocate for fucking bail reform?
Yeah.
You think they're going to get out there and advocate for anything that will make the lives of somebody who made a mistake better? Mm-hmm. No, they're going to advocate for their lives to be worse because it gets them more money. A lot of these places will charge the government even for like empty beds.
Yeah.
Of course they want to fill the fucking beds because it necessitates that they will continue to get more contracts. Of course they want more people in prisons because then they have more demand for their service.
Yep. And they're going to be against criminal justice reform at every turn.
Yeah.
Because why would they want a system reformed where they're making money off of it?
Exactly. They're not going to advocate for their own obsolescence.
Exactly, yeah. It's like, I get it, like GM, Ford, they lobby against like public transportation projects and stuff like that, and I think that's sinister, of course.
But like my car is cool in some ways. Right. I like transportation, but like my car is kind of cool. I like driving around and playing music.
Yeah.
A prison,
yeah.
It's just there to make people's lives bad.
A product predicated on people losing their freedom.
On suffering.
Yeah. Now, to make matters more evil, and this is remarkable, I feel like nothing should surprise me anymore, but every week I find something that surprises me. There are some changes to the fees that immigrants have to pay when it comes to like applying for different statuses.
Okay.
Quote, this budget, quote, charges unprecedented immigration fees to people seeking temporary protected status, a $550 fee, or asylum $100.
Brother.
Children traveling without an adult will have to pay $250 to obtain protected relief.
They're children. They don't have money. Children traveling without an adult. Children just sent across the border. Children that you find across the border by themselves. You think they're carrying $250 USD on them? What the fuck? What?
We're just going to have some fucking guy shake down a 9-year-old. I need $250 now if you want to apply for asylum. And then the cost of an appeal of an immigration judge's decision skyrockets from $110 to $900.
Jesus Christ,
$900. And this bill did hire some more immigration judges, but it's not nearly enough, obviously.
No.
And because the purpose of this immigration plan is detention. Is concentration camps. So bad.
So bad.
So bad.
It's so incredibly bad.
Yeah, this bill, this really fucking sucks. Like we said, there's always some form of this bill that was going to pass. But it's just crazy to see it happen.
And it's crazy that it just continued to get worse. There was so much talk about the Senate being the more fiscally responsible body, about there being more holdouts in the Senate, about things changing a little bit, only for it to literally just get worse at every single turn. Mm-hmm. The only people that meaningfully held out for this bill were people that held out for more killing and making your lives worse. Mm-hmm. There weren't really any concessions that happened during this negotiation process that like pulled people back to normalcy, except for the AI regulation.
Yeah, that was the one thing.
That's like the one thing.
They needed Marjorie Taylor Greene's vote. Yeah. I just want to say to sort of end off this section here, it's not a coincidence that an administration filled with billionaires just passed the largest cut to the American social safety net in U.S. history.
Uh-huh.
It's not a coincidence that an administration stocked with and supported by the richest people in the country just did a massive tax cut for the wealthy. Like you said earlier, this is just class warfare. And it might sound corny or like overly academic, but I don't know how else to characterize shifting $1 trillion in social benefits for working class people to the richest people in the country in the form of tax cuts.
And it's like, what is a guy who makes $400,000 a year going to do with like the extra, $12,000 that they're going to get back?
It's just making the rich richer. That's the only purpose.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how else to describe it. It is a form of class warfare. They recognize their position in the broader social economic system. You don't, exactly. And they are taking from you by cutting in the order of millions of people the number of people that get access to healthcare, and also SNAP and all these other benefits.
They're taking advantage of you, and they're lying to you about what immigrants are doing in this country in order to get you to support people that vote to make your life worse and vote to, in some cases, straight up kill you.
Yeah.
That's the only way to put it. These people will expend any resource possible. They will lobby the government so that they can get more money, so they can continue to lobby the government just so that they can have more money, just so they can have more zeros in their bank account and not put them to any like actual like real practical use, just so Jeff Bezos can go and rent out all of like a section of Italy to have a goddamn soap party for his wedding.
Yeah, it's just maintaining their power atop of the social system. I mean, that's what humans have been doing for a long time, and they're doing it here. It's no different.
All while you struggle to pay for food and maybe can't even go to the doctor.
Yeah,
it's fucked up.
Like it's. I think the rich have fully captured the government more so than at like any point in U.S. history, and they are using that power to take from the poor, make them poorer, and give it to the rich and make them richer. That's all it is. There is no other explanation to what's going on here.
Yeah.
And if you can't see that, I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know like how to convince people further. Like it's really hard because a lot of people. There are still a lot of conservatives that like this bill. Obviously, this is massively unpopular, but they've been so captured by the anti-immigrant rhetoric, by the waste, fraud, and abuse rhetoric, that they can't open their goddamn eyes and look at what's actually being passed. Look at the effects that are actually going to happen. Everything is propaganda to them except for the things that already appeal to their preconceived biases. How do you reach these people?
And there was already, I can't remember where it was some rural county and some southern state that had already had a health clinic closed that was open for 30 years because of budget cuts.
Yeah.
Because health clinics, hospitals, nursing homes, they have to like project their budget into the future. They're anticipating these cuts. This health center closes, and people, maybe they do, maybe they don't, but like the fault, maybe they don't blame Trump's budget, but the fault is Trump's budget, right? Like that's the purpose, or that's the thing that caused the issue. Are they going to blame the Republican Party, though?
And it's like
it's the Republican Party that did this to you. And I don't know if people have the capacity to understand, even though it's very simple, that the people you voted for hate you and want you to die.
That's why it's like, I am a strong believer that anybody who's running against Republicans has to run a negative and hateful campaign.
Yeah.
Because like people need to be told and need to be made aware that it's Republicans that are doing these things. And like, there's this anecdote that I was reading, I think it was either on Twitter or on Reddit, about somebody who was talking to their brother, who's a conservative and an ardent supporter of the whole big, beautiful bill, until they were told that Hawkeye, which I think is Iowa's version of Medicaid, is Medicaid.
Yeah.
It just goes by a different name, and that will be cut and his family might be kicked off of it. And then he's like, and that's something that's going to happen to millions of people across the country. And like, there's such a wide messaging gap between what like really anybody has been doing before and what is necessary for this moment that I think the Democrats need to catch a vibe onto.
Oh, yeah.
And need to start making people aware of who's in charge and who's doing these things.
Again, I think people really have a hard time conceptualizing, because like $1 trillion's a big number, you know what I mean? $1 trillion in Medicaid cuts. It's really difficult to conceptualize. It is the biggest cut in the social safety net in U.S. history. More than Reagan, more than Bill Clinton's welfare reforms, more than anything we have ever seen. It is the biggest cut to Medicaid that we have ever seen in this country's history. And I don't think people are prepared for the fallout. This is catastrophic.
It's like, part of this is we're fighting against 40 years of a concerted propaganda effort to get people on board with the idea that the government is only ever bad and incompetent and awful.
Yeah.
And that's something that we need to contend with. Like, man.
And that the free market is the solution here, and that people just need to get back to work and figure things out themselves. It's really bad. I don't know how the country comes back from this. I mean, even if we get a Democrat in office in 3 years, 4 years,
God,
it's going to take a lot of work to even bring a portion of this shit back.
Yeah, because it's like, yes, if a Democrat comes in office, yes, if the fallout of this bill, because by the time 2028 comes around, we will be fully into the fallout of this bill. People will have been kicked off of Medicaid. People's lives will have been made worse because the worst portions of the bill will have been in effect for about 2 years at that point. The Democrat can get in office and they can win a trifecta and they can undo this budget and propose a new budget that does more things, but they can't undo the damage that was caused in the interim. They can't undo the damage that was caused in those 2 years where people could not go to the doctor, where people could not feed their families because SNAP was cut. And that's like a great social injustice. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah.
And it can't easily be rectified unless the general population is truly made aware of why these things happen and who does these things to them. Yeah. Once again, I'll go back to conversations that I've had with people even our age where they come to me and they say, oh, but Social Security is not going to be around when we're older, so why even worry about the cuts now? Social Security won't be around when we're older if Republicans cut it.
Yes.
The only thing that will change whether or not Social Security is around for us or other social safety nets are around for us is if the people we elect into office take them away from us. And that's where these things should be focused. We need to focus more on the people in office. And again, it's the Democratic Party. You need to stop running against policies and you need to start running against people. And not in a I'm not Donald Trump way, but in a I hate Donald Trump way. And he wants to kill you. And it worked in New York.
He wants to kill you. It's, I have no idea how, I don't think anybody can conceive how bad this is going to be, but it's going to be very, very bad.
Yeah, it's going to suck.
And even in a best case scenario, it's millions of people going further into healthcare debt.
Yeah.
And that's just a crazy thing that exists.
And there's no CFPB anymore.
Anyways, but yeah, there's no CFPB that's going to count on your credit score. It's all around bad. It's murderous. It's evil.
It's evil. It's fucked up.
I hate commercials.
Me too.
I hate listening to them. I hate when I hear them, whether it's on TV or on podcasts.
Grr, I just can't stand commercials.
They're the worst. And the one place you can go to avoid commercials, like this one you're listening to right now, is patreon.com/headintheofficepod. Become a patron and you get early access to our episodes, and they're all completely commercial free. No more interruptions.
And you could be one of our friends.
And that's arguably the more important point.
And, in trying times like this, friendship is what we really need.
Friendship's really important. And you can buy your way into being a friend of ours by heading over to patreon.com/headintheofficepod. Again, early access to episodes, no commercials, access to all of our content before anyone else sees it. Become a patron.
And while we're talking about evil, while we're talking about the apex of evil.
Yeah, let's talk about Alligator Alcatraz, I guess. In more news about the GOP just being harbingers of death, Trump had a concentration camp built in Florida.
I don't know how else to call it like that.
Yeah.
You see the pictures of this place, Alligator Alcatraz, and it's literally cages. It's wire link fences that surround small cells with triple decker fucking bunk beds 2 feet apart from each other.
Yep.
In the Everglades.
In a tent.
In a tent.
It's in a tent. It's one of those more sturdy, well-constructed tents, and it's got the tube of air conditioning feeding in or whatever. But it's in the Everglades, and it's already flooded once.
Yeah.
So we can sort of imagine how bad this is going to be. I wish this was a joke, but yeah, it's a concentration camp called Alligator Alcatraz. That's what's on the signs.
That's what's on the AI generated merch that they're selling.
And it's in the heart of the Florida Everglades. So I have a quote from the Washington Post here. The camp is located on an infrequently used airfield in the heart of the protected Everglades. Before Florida Governor Ron DeSantis commandeered it, the site consisted of a long runway built in the late 1960s as an initial stage in a project intended to create a mega airport. But environmentalists and indigenous tribes successfully fought back. In the area surrounded by the Big Cypress National Preserve and the next door Everglades National Park is now a part of an ongoing $25 billion Everglades restoration project, which is now home to a concentration camp.
And it's called Alligator Alcatraz because there are literally alligators surrounding it.
Yeah.
There are quotes of Trump and Ron DeSantis gloating about what if an immigrant gets out of here. They're like, oh, I guess they're going to get eaten by alligators.
What are they going to do? Get eaten by an alligator?
Motherfucker. Yeah, that's bad.
And I got to stress this point because this thing blew my mind. The funding for the construction and maintenance of this Alligator Alcatraz camp came from the state of Florida and FEMA.
What the fuck does FEMA have to do with any of this?
You know, the group that goes around after there's like a tornado or an earthquake, some sort of natural disaster, and like clean stuff up and find survivors. FEMA paid for this concentration camp.
Conservatives absolutely flipped their shit when they saw that FEMA was helping immigrants who were affected by like hurricanes in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. But everybody is conveniently silent when FEMA is just funding a concentration camp. Yeah. That has nothing to do with a natural disaster.
Yeah, nobody actually cares. No. Nobody actually cares about anything, and it's getting exhausting a little bit. It's
infuriating being the only person that cares.
And this facility, this concentration camp, I want to try to not use neutral language here because it doesn't deserve it.
Oh yeah, it's Alligator Auschwitz.
Yeah, this camp, this recreation of Auschwitz-Birkenau, it evokes a certain kind of imagery, and I use Auschwitz specifically because there's one road in.
Yeah.
Unless you land on the airfield, of course.
And they joke about it.
But there's it evokes a certain photo. In my mind, and it's not bad, especially as I said earlier, when you consider that 70% of people currently in ICE detention have no criminal record and could end up being housed here because I think this place will have like 3,000 people.
They're gonna put like grandmas there, surrounded by fucking alligators. Like this entire project is a project in the aesthetics of evil.
Yep.
Once again, the cruelty is the point. They just want to do the most evil thing, the most showy, flashy, aesthetically awful thing to like appease their own need to feel like they're actually doing something about a problem that they made up.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to do something like this if you are actually solving a real issue. You only need to do something like this and need to lean into the aesthetics and the flash and the brutality of it all if you need to prove to yourself and your supporters that you've lied to that something is actually happening.
And it's like, under no circumstance would I ever want even like an enemy of mine to be eaten by a fucking alligator.
Of course not.
Are you kidding? Because like it's not because I'm like a bleeding heart liberal or whatever. It's because I think there are things that we can do to each other that go beyond the purview of morality.
And it's like the entire substance of this mass deportation effort isn't actually deporting illegal criminals, if I'm to use their framework. The substance of it is the violent or brutal aesthetic.
Yeah.
That's all it is. The videos that get shared around and championed on conservative Twitter are videos of guys rolling up in military-style, SWAT-style raids on suburban homes to take one person who doesn't look like they could really hurt a fly. Mm-hmm. In some instances, to take a goddamn grandma.
Yeah.
And then it's to do shit like this, where we build a concentration camp in the Everglades and surround it by alligators and joke about the alligators eating people alive.
Mm-hmm.
That's the substance here.
Yeah, I don't know how there's not like violations of the 8th Amendment here.
No.
Like cruel and unusual punishment or something like that. Because groups of all kinds, environmental groups or whoever else, have already warned that like there's a heat danger here because it's fucking Florida.
Yeah.
Like, of course there's going to be a heat danger. But there's also like hurricanes and mosquitoes.
We're in hurricane season right now.
What are you going to do about those two? Mosquitoes traffic diseases, obviously. And one hurricane hits this tent fucking camp and it's over.
And it can flood.
Yeah. Well, and it can flood and it already has.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like...
And there's only one way in.
There's only one way in. Like, I don't know how else to tell you. They want you to die. Like, they just don't fuck with life. The Republican Party is hostile to human life in all forms, and especially is hostile towards human life if the skin on that human is not white.
Yeah.
So, that's sort of where we're at with Alligator Alcatraz, a concentration camp.
Yeah, it's not good, folks. It's really not good. And everything just kind of sucks right now.
Yeah, they fuck with brutality. They fuck with death and pain.
The aesthetics of evil.
Yeah. If I were trying to destroy a country, this is one way I would do it.
Yeah.
I also saw that 5 Democratic lawmakers from Florida tried to come into the camp and like do a tour inspection kind of thing, spot check, and they were denied access.
Like the New Jersey with the ICE thing. Yeah,
same thing.
Okay,
and they were denied entry. They couldn't get in. Feels with the big beautiful bill and then this, it feels like they think they're invincible and can't be stopped. And to some extent, they're right. Democrats have no political power.
Yeah.
And they're weak and feckless.
I mean, what? Their only opposition is Hakeem Jeffries posting a video of himself holding a baseball bat, like wrong somehow, like saucelessly holding a baseball bat in his office with a weird smile. Mm-hmm. Or Hakeem Jeffries just delaying the bill's passage for 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we got right now. We have gestures, but we don't have meaningful opposition. And I don't mean meaningful opposition in a way that like, oh, the Democrats can't take the bill, because frankly, they just can't take the bill. Yeah. I recognize that. But they suck at the messaging game. Mm-hmm. They're not out here screaming about this shit. They're just posting like once, acknowledging something that's bad, and then leaving it. They don't sit here and message repeatedly about issues. They don't attack these people for these issues. At most, they attack Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. We need to be attacking everyone involved in this.
Yeah, and like the one bit of good messaging I saw on the big beautiful budget was the Senate Democrats offering amendments like back to back to back, where they were like, can we say no tax cuts for people making over $500,000 get shot down? Yeah. Can we say over $1 million get shut down? Can we say over $1 billion get shot down? And that's just proving like you just want to give a tax cut to the richest people in the country. Like if you cared about the working class tax cuts, extend those as a part of the 2017 tax cuts, which are not the most expensive portion of that bill, and then we'll be fine. We won't have to worry about deficit spending or anything.
Exactly, then we're chilling.
But this party is for the rich and is just anti-immigrant and anti-people of color generally, and that's just who they are.
That's their essence.
They fuck with violence.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's crazy. They really do. They do fuck with violence
and death.
And death. In many different forms.
The loss of human life.
The loss of human life in so many different ways.
The congregation is missing someone. And that someone, dear listener, is you. The congregation awaits you over on our Discord. If you go into the description of this episode right now, there will be a link to join the Head in the Office Discord, where you will find more than 1,000 like-minded individuals for you to interact with. And maybe most importantly, we'll be there.
1,000 members strong. It is a burgeoning community of Hiddo-heads.
That's right.
Ready to receive you into their arms. Make you a part of the community. Vest you as a Hiddo-head.
Over on Discord, we have discussions. You can interact with other Hiddo-heads. And maybe, for some fun, we can do some community events. And we know that you want to be a part of that. Only available over on the official Head in the Office Discord.
And that kind of leads us to our next topic. Once again, like the loss of human life. Over the weekend, flash floods hit an area of Texas surrounding the Guadalupe River. And like as of Monday morning, these floods have killed I think I'd seen 80 people, and hundreds of people have been rescued, and more people are still missing.
Yeah.
The floods have absolutely devastated an area. And this is obviously a tragedy. Just want to get out there and say that in the first place. And before we get into the politics of it all, I do want to just take a moment to put out a disclaimer, I guess you could call it. Even though Texas is an awful red state with some of the most awful senators and awful leaders, not everyone in Texas is a conservative. Mm-hmm. And even amongst the conservatives in Texas, I wouldn't say that any of them deserve to die.
Of course.
Especially in something like this, deserve to die or have their life ruined and altered in such an awful way, right? Yeah. I rock with the politics of empathy here on this podcast, right? Especially when we have a world where a lot of these conservative voters have been duped by a man who is famous for lying to people he's taking from. Mm-hmm. Straight up.
Yeah.
I just say this at the top of this segment because there has been discourse on the left right now from a crowd of people that say, oh, you vote for this, you deserve it. And I just want to make a definitive statement and fundamentally say that that's wrong.
Well, yeah, there's been a lot of people doing the fuck around, find out type stuff. And it's like, first of all, there are children that have died or gone missing because of these floods, people that can't vote or people that didn't vote.
27 children dead from a summer camp.
I don't think that's a fuck around, find out scenario in any real way. But even people that did vote for Trump, like you said, they could have been sort of duped into it or confused or lied to or just victims of misinformation. And generally, I fuck with the politics of spite. You know what I mean? I fuck with spite. I fuck with hostility. But that anger should be directed at the people making the decisions. Uh-huh. And you should use your spite and hatred of those people as a way to essentially shame voters out of voting for them.
Yes.
Your spite shouldn't be directed at the voter because that's how you just alienate people.
I don't think you don't necessarily want to shame the voter in most cases. You want to shame the person that they support to make it so that they can feel that they personally feel shame for wanting to support that person.
Yeah, you shame them by proxy. Yeah.
That's what I fuck with, right?
Exactly.
And of course, there are certain things that I think voters should be shamed for, certain abhorrent policies and whatnot, but just straight up just had to get that out there.
Yeah.
It's silly to say that any area deserves this just because they're red, because a third of the population doesn't even vote. A third of the eligible population doesn't vote, and that doesn't even count kids. Mm-hmm. And of that third, there's a third that votes conservative, and it's whatever.
Yeah.
That's a silly line of argument to get to. But now it's time for the politics.
Oh, my favorite. I love politics.
My favorite. I love politics. I love analysis. I love crunching numbers. And you know that's what we're going to do right here, baby. And Boy, was I surprised when I actually started looking into the numbers of this. Okay. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA for short, is tasked with like pretty much anything weather. They oversee the National Weather Service. They monitor and do research into how the climate is changing, track hurricanes, and they watch for other possible dangerous weather events to warn people and help put the infrastructure in place to coordinate emergency responses, like the flash floods that we just saw in Texas. In February, during Elon Musk's like tear through the federal government with Doge, he fired like directly through firing all probationary employees 10% of NOAA's workforce.
Cool.
That's cool. That's cool. That's people. Sick. I'm sure there will be no repercussions from this. In May, CNN reported that the National Weather Service, an arm of NOAA, was looking to quickly fill 155, quote, critical positions that became vacant as a result of Doge as they headed into hurricane season, which started in June.
That's not an ill omen or anything.
155 critical positions. Interesting.
Fucking damn it, dude. All we can do in this country is fund the military.
I'm saying, specifically in terms of like the Texas flash floods, the Austin, San Antonio, and San Angelo NWS offices, who are responsible for overseeing the Guadalupe River, are missing key staffers. One such person was a warning coordination meteorologist whose job it is to serve as a direct link between weather forecasters and emergency managers.
It's right fucking there.
It's right there. It's literally there. And I had seen a discussion going on about how it's like, yes, the National Weather Service did their job. They got warnings out before the flash flood happened. But there was a massive issue with how that response was coordinated. There's an issue of warning fatigue in an area that's struck with these things all the time, yada, yada, yada. There's an issue of the warnings being issued at night. But when you are missing the person who's responsible for coordinating with emergency services and emergency response for something like this, I think we can say that part of the awfulness and loss of life and general tragedy and bad things happening of this event are because of the Doge cuts.
Rarely is there such a clear through line. Like with with the planes crashing and stuff, like when it first started, we were like, okay, we can't actually directly blame the FAA cuts. Like, obviously, some of it, maybe you could draw a through line, but a lot of it's just like, this could just be a freak accident. This is just like, Trump killed these people.
There was a guy that was missing. That job it was to make this easier for emergency services, and because that wasn't the emergency service, didn't have as easier of a job.
Austerity is deadly.
There is such a direct link. There can't be much more of a direct link there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's just like, I'm sure you can guess why other key positions were empty. It's because of Doge. Yep. These people took the Doge retirement incentives.
Yeah.
This person wasn't directly fired by Doge, but they took the retirement incentive. That may not even be real come September. We don't even know the status of that.
It might not be real, but it would not have happened. That person wouldn't have left their job, or their job wouldn't have been vacant had Elon Musk not fucked with the government.
Exactly. And you can say, oh, they took the retirement incentive, blah, blah, blah. Once again, they most likely would not have retired, taken the incentive, if they weren't fearful from their job, from 10% of their workforce being cut beforehand.
Well, and people took the incentive because the idea was that Elon Musk can't fire these people, so we're going to get them to voluntarily resign.
Yes.
That was the purpose, was that we're trying to cut the workforce.
And they intentionally made their lives hell to get them to resign because they couldn't directly fire them. And it worked. And now it's having just direct negative causes here.
You really got to appreciate that, with all these Doge cuts and whatnot, there really just wasn't that much bloat in the federal government.
Yeah.
In terms of people hired. Except in the fucking DOD, which they didn't touch, of course. But in the places that were really hit hard, NOAA or the CFPB or, whatever, the good shit, there really just wasn't that much bloat happening.
It's insane that throughout all of Doge's efforts, one, they weren't able to hit the goal that they were trying to hit, $2 trillion of spending, because that was fundamentally impossible to hit. But the only thing they did was make good things worse.
Or just axe good things altogether, like USAID.
Yeah.
There really just wasn't that, by and large, when we're talking about these agencies that were hit by Doge cuts, whether it's the FAA or here with NOAA or USAID, they were just doing what they were supposed to. By and large, they were just doing their job.
Doge was a masterclass in doing the worst thing possible in the most inefficient way possible. And you know what? Shit, I got to give it to him.
It seems like a lot of the issues that we've had with these agencies, even if you have a leftist critique of USAID, it has nothing to do with the people that were there or the number of employees they had hired. It was just the funding they got and where it was supposed to go, which they have no control over.
Yeah, it was just $2 to gay Sesame Street.
It was shit that Congress should have fixed. And of course, Republicans Republicans aren't going to fix anything. Congress isn't going to fix anything. But like it really just, it makes you appreciate how well shit was going before.
It does. Like everybody had talked about bureaucratic bloat in the government for a while. Shit, I still believe there's a lot of bureaucratic bloat within the government.
Pentagon especially.
But they dodged it all.
One is like with the Pentagon, like we can talk about FEMA, right? Like FEMA regularly is like, Congress, we need more money.
Oh, we'll talk about FEMA.
We do not have enough money. And then every single budgeting cycle, the Joint Chiefs is like, we don't need more money. And they're like, but like, don't you need another $100 billion jet? Uh-huh. And then they give them the money.
But like, wait, you need this new experimental technology that won't be released until like 2040.
That actually will never work.
That will never work. And like, we've sunk trillions of dollars into this program forever. And also you need to spend all of your budget on office chairs.
Mm-hmm. All we can do is like fund the military and cut taxes. That's all we're good for nowadays.
We're a broken country.
We're in the declining years. We're sundowning as a nation. Like it's just this is who we are now, man.
It's fucked up, and it's like, wow, we have just like we literally have a genuine direct link between Doge cuts, the Trump administration's agenda, and something bad happening too. That's at like one National Weather Service office. CNN reports that there are other National Weather Service offices across the country that are in even worse positions than those in San Antonio and San Angelo. Some National Weather Service offices can no longer offer 24/7 coverage because they are so short-staffed, and others can no longer launch 2 weather balloons a day. That was standard beforehand.
The weather's not taking a break on Sunday.
The weather is not taking a break between the hour during the graveyard shift.
Yeah.
Yeah. Straight up, we need people monitoring the clouds.
We need someone on third.
It's important. And also, like, what do you mean we can't launch 2 weather balloons a day? I'm not taking that as like, I'm not like a principled stance against like blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, 2 weathers is some magical number that we hit. But now we're just operating with less data. Mm-hmm. If it was the standard that we're launching 2 weather balloons a day to collect data, and now we can't because of heavy on arbitrary cuts that Doge made to the federal government, we just have less data to grapple with storms and to predict awful things like the flash floods in Texas.
Like, we have less data at a time when extreme weather events are regular weather events.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because like, and I know you got climate change in here, climate change stuff later on, but like, as climate change worsens, you want more data, not less.
Exactly. You need more data because, one, you need more data, and something we have, a situation we're faced directly right now is that we have less people to interpret less data.
Yeah.
Double whammy, that's bad.
Double whammy.
But also in the future, as like you say, extreme weather events become regular weather events, we need to understand the science behind why these things are happening so that we can predict when they're going to happen and understand how we're going to respond to them. There was an administrative budget that Trump proposed in his 2026 NOAA budget proposal, and within it is a total and complete cut to NOAA's research division. The research division responsible for researching climate change, understanding how the climate is changing, and understanding how extreme weather events will take root so that we can predict them and help keep people safe. Quote, the budget seeks to eliminate all of NOAA's weather and climate research labs, along with institutes jointly run with universities around the country. The entire research division of NOAA will be eliminated under the proposal, which is subject to congressional approval. This would shut down research and development of new forecasting technologies, including computer modeling and severe weather warning scenarios, and hamper prediction of hazards, including flash floods.
Brother, liberal democracy really was like, just a flash in the pan, wasn't it?
They're so anti. They want to kill you, man.
Like we would be, if we took the technology we had to predict the weather and showed it to someone 1,000 years ago, we would be gods to them.
Exactly.
Like it's truly what we have accomplished. The amount of intelligence we have gathered about just a number of different things in the sciences is just a feat of humanity, and we are torpedoing all of our progress here. And it's because eggs got too expensive.
The craziest part about this is, yes, it's like they got elected into this position because eggs got too expensive for a little while. It's like this is all to make people who are causing climate change more money.
Yeah.
Like they're getting rid of NOAA's research division so that no more climate change research comes out so that they can continue to say, oh, haha, look at the climate hoax, blah, blah, blah. Exactly. Let's fund oil more. Because another thing that the big beautiful bill does that we didn't talk about is it just offers like incentives for oil.
I was going to say
fucking burn coal.
It cuts the green energy tax credits and gives a bunch of funding to oil.
It basically repeals the green energy portion of the Inflation Reduction Act.
Mm-hmm. Which at the time
fuck with you, dog.
Was the big... This is another thing about fucking Democrats. Biggest investment in green energy in the country's history. I think in world history, most of the money was not spent. as it's getting cut. Well, as it has been cut because the bill passed, of course. So I guess it wasn't the biggest investment because the money that was put aside was not invested.
So real.
Yeah.
So fucking real. I wish we had a real country, man. And it's like, broadly, if we look past like the disasters themselves and we look at the aftermath of disasters, things under Trump are only going to get worse, just like how they are getting worse when it comes to the things themselves. Doge's tear through the government already resulted in a 20% cut to FEMA staff.
Oh, good. So we can't predict the weather events, and now we can't clean up after them.
And now we can't clean
Jesus
up after them
Christ,
as efficiently.
dude.
And even beyond that, Trump has signaled that he wants FEMA totally gone and moved to the state level after the 2025 hurricane season. He said, quote, "We want to wean off FEMA."
What do you mean?
He said, "We want to wean off FEMA and we want to bring it down to the state level. A governor should be able to handle it. And frankly, if they can't handle it, the aftermath, then maybe they shouldn't be governor."
That's not how that works, dog.
FEMA is like the whole point of the federal government. It partly exists to help states in time of crisis, like it being the federal government, partly exists to help states in times of crisis do what they could not do themselves. On average, red states will suffer the most from something like this, just like red states will suffer more from Medicaid cuts. They're killing their constituents.
Yeah.
They're killing their constituents because red states are poorer on average. If a disaster strikes fucking Mississippi, they can't handle it like maybe Texas or even Florida could.
Because they don't have the tax base to do it. They don't have the funding to make it happen. That is why you need FEMA, because the federal government is the only entity large enough to collect the revenue necessary to deal with natural disasters.
It's a big government in terms of making everything worse, and not big government in terms of anything big government could help you with.
And like FEMA is such a small line item compared to the spending that they're doing in the big beautiful bill.
And it's just like an uncontroversial like organization.
It's like one of the base functions of government: clean up disasters.
Yeah, help people out.
Yeah. and we're talking natural disasters, right? This isn't like some shit that's, this isn't like a terrorist attack type shit where like someone commits a crime, blows something up, something bad happens. This is shit that nobody can control. There is, like, if you're a governor, even a governor of a rich state, there is no stopping a hurricane, an earthquake, a massive storm that destroys a bunch of property. You just need the help. Maybe California can weather it because California is like the 5th largest economy in the world.
Yeah, they give money to every other state in the union.
But North Carolina can't. Mississippi can't. Alabama can't. West Virginia can't.
North Carolina, famous example. Last year, conservatives were kicking and screaming about Joe Biden's response to North Carolina and getting FEMA funds out, despite FEMA funds already running dry after the California wildfires.
Right.
Like FEMA should be an uncontroversial organization, administrative body, whatever the fuck it is. It should be uncontroversial in its existence. The only thing that's controversial about FEMA is the amount of funding that it gets because it doesn't get enough money to be able to deal with these things.
And didn't Texas just get FEMA money?
Probably.
For the floods. I think Kristi Noem or whoever's responsible for FEMA. I think FEMA might be under DHS. I can't remember. But
hey, FEMA just paid for Alligator Alcatraz.
Well, of course. There's some of the funding that they did.
That's good.
But yeah, no, it's remarkably bad. FEMA is one of the most basic things you'd want a federal government to do.
Like, you want West Virginia to handle a flash flood? You think West Virginia can handle hurricane cleanup?
They can't, you can't do it.
West Virginia can't pay for anything.
They don't pay for anything. They're broke.
Yes.
Like, they don't do shit for their people.
Like, they need help. they need help, like, as a state, man. It's crazy. And it's like, I guess just one note to wrap this episode off with is almost everything that this administration does is either to kill you or make your life worse while the rich get richer.
Yep.
That's it.
They don't give a fuck about you. And I think anytime a Republican says this should be a state issue, it just means they don't want you to have access to whatever thing they're talking about. Every single time they say it should be a state's issue, whether it's abortion or now FEMA or seemingly the fucking weather service, it just means you shouldn't have access to this. But I can't get it done at a national level. So I'm going to send it to the states where your state will not provide you with this service. Because in red states, they don't have to.
Or at least my state will not provide you with this service.
It's
the
a
blue states can do whatever we want, and then we can yell at them for it.
But even most blue states won't be able to. I don't even think like Illinois with the money they get from like a city like Chicago could handle.
No fucking way.
Paying for their own version of FEMA. Michigan certainly couldn't.
You think that like Maine could do that? Like, it's just not something that can happen.
New York, California, maybe Texas. Like those are the ones that would maybe be able to. But like Texas doesn't have a fucking state income tax, so how are they going to pay for their own version of FEMA?
It's like if FEMA does go back to the states, what are these states that don't have an income tax going to do? Texas and Florida, they're just going to, I don't know, put more tax on your liquor. They're going to do a higher sales tax, which is just going to fuck poor people even more. The same poor people who probably lost their house in the disaster.
Also, if FEMA should be a state by state issue, why can't border security be a state by state issue?
Heavy on that.
Like, why is the federal government doing it? I mean, it's just like what, Texas, California, a couple other states that deal with border specific issues. Why can't they just deal with it however they want to? States' rights.
Well, everybody wants to pretend they're a border state now.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Everybody wants to be a border state.
I mean, Michigan's a border state technically.
I forget that we're a border state. I really always do, but we are in that 100-mile exclusion zone, so the Constitution doesn't matter here.
I think you'd have to go to like what, Midland? To be far enough away.
And who wants to go to Midland?
Actually, I don't know if anywhere in Michigan is safe.
I think there might be a little sliver in the middle. I think you're right about that. But man,
oh, what a bad week, man!
What a bad bill. What a bad news cycle. Hopefully things are better on Thursday. Hopefully things calm down a little bit on Thursday because I do want to do a roundup on Gaza news.
I was just about to say Trump dropped a slur from like the 1600s.
Oh my God, yeah. And then a lot of Zionists were like, "Nah, it's cool."
Yeah, he dropped a slur. This like something about
a slur that dates back to Shakespeare.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It was some like anti-Semitic stereotype about charging high interest
lenders.
Rates.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that.
So he dropped an ancient slur on some Steven Crowder shit, to be honest with you. And then he was asked about it, like, why did you say this slur? He's like, oh, I don't think it's a slur. I'm just talking about high interest rates.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how could you know?
Oh no, I didn't think it was a slur. I'm just talking about the group the slur describes.
Yeah. And then Netanyahu's, I think, coming today for us or tomorrow, something like that. Bibi's coming sometime this week, so fantastic.
Shout out that guy.
On the geopolitical scene. Maybe a geopolitical roundup next week would be good.
On Thursday doing a little like Gaza roundup, especially because Jesus fucking Christ, man, so much has happened in Gaza. We had the goddamn fucking opioids in the flour.
Oh my God, yeah.
Jesus.
But now, budget news is done.
Hopefully,
because the budget's done.
That's true. Yeah, I wonder. There will probably be more things that like come out about what the budget does that we'll talk about like as we find them. Like I said earlier, there's some. I think they're doing something to like grad plus loans. They're doing something to like other things. But man, also the silencer tax repeal made it in.
Yeah.
So now I guess you can kill people easier, better, and cheaper.
That's the most Republican thing I've ever heard. Dude. Like. Who was making this demand? NRA was lobbying people like, hey, give me something out of this bill. But
it's crazy because like that's a budget cut.
Yeah,
like
it is a budget
repealing the silencer tax is like we took away Medicaid from like one family to pay for you to be able to buy a silencer.
Yeah,
like cheaper.
Man, what a fucked country. I feel like there's just so much shit that happened. There was some Epstein news.
Oh my God, no, the Epstein news is crazy. Yeah, I open up Twitter and I see that the DOJ released something that said that there is no Epstein list and Epstein did kill himself.
Me when I lie.
Which is a complete coincidence that this happens, 2 weeks after Elon Musk says Trump is on the Epstein list? Absolutely just a fake fucking news story, man. What do you mean there's no list and he killed himself?
I wonder if this administration would be in any way incentivized to cover up what's inside of those files.
I wonder.
Nothing comes to mind.
I wonder if that's particularly topical right now after something that happened a little bit ago. Who knows?
There are entire right-wing influencers who make their living or started making their living off of Epstein conspiracy posting.
Yeah.
Like Joe Biden won't release the Epstein files, or Obama, or I guess Obama wouldn't have been president at the time this was a controversy, but like Biden won't release the files because it would indict him and the entire DNC and stuff like that. Your guy's in office.
And it's also like,
what's he doing?
How are you just now coming to the conclusion that there's no Epstein list and he didn't kill himself when you started the administration giving a fake binder out of like Epstein data?
Yes.
Like their whole thing was, we are going to release the Epstein files. And now conveniently, now that your guy has a more credible accusation of being on the Epstein list, you're like, actually, that shit didn't exist. Like that shit didn't exist. He killed himself. There's no foul play.
Oh my
really?
God, the binders thing was so funny, dude.
The guy implicated in like, the guy who's, I guess, existence implicates the most powerful people in the world, and especially the U.S. government, in one of the most nefarious and heinous crimes you can commit, just like conveniently killed himself when he got caught. Like, I don't know, man. Maybe I am a conspiracy theorist. Maybe there is no basic, but like,
there's no goddamn way. He was connected to like every political elite.
Exactly.
Every economic and political elite in the country and beyond the country.
Like,
There's no way.
I'm not like principled on this issue. I'm gonna bring it back to the cold open. Like, I will never change my mind. Like, that guy didn't kill himself.
Yeah, this is a bipartisan issue, though. Neither Democrats nor Republicans want to release the Epstein files.
And I bet that's going to get swept under the rug, too. And I bet, low-key, we're probably never going to hear anything about it again because, say, a Democrat takes office, they probably have a donor that was implicated, and they're not going to fucking release the list.
Exactly.
Now Trump has given everybody who goes forth ever who gets political power to not have to worry about the Epstein list anymore.
I feel like maybe if we could get a Democrat that's like that runs against the party, like an anti-establishment Democrat, if we could get them to run on releasing the Epstein list.
God, that'd be so sick.
Because, like, Trump was asked about it, and he would usually kind of just, like, hand wave anytime he's asked. He's like, yeah, maybe I'd do it, but, like, it could hurt a lot of people.
It could hurt a lot of people. Ghislaine Maxwell, she was a good friend of mine. Like, I don't
But, man, that'd be good. There's just such an opening for an anti-establishment Democrat to come in and just fucking sweep.
Yeah.
Everybody wants it.
Oh, my God, yeah.
But who knows if they're going to do it.
Fuck.
I guess only time will tell. But I think that brings us to the end of this wonderful, beautiful episode on this Monday afternoon.
Yeah, that does. Beautiful episode, not so beautiful topics, but you know what we do.
Terrible topics.
You know what we do here. We talk about it. We don't shy away. We don't turn our heads.
Nah. I stare into the abyss.
And you know what I love staring at? These lovely, beautiful, wonderful, excellent patrons.
Cute.
That help keep the lights on in this very studio to help us bring you the news now twice a week.
Oh, I guess we should announce the goal.
Oh, yeah, we got a new Patreon goal.
We'll post about it on Patreon. If you're this far in the episode, shout out.
Shouts out you.
But yeah, we'll be posting our new goal on Patreon. We'll remind you every so often. But once we hit the goal and once we have fully fleshed out the details in text so you can read it,
yes.
We'll be putting in the postcards that we send out a free sticker every 2 months as well.
And that's pretty sick.
And they will be unique designs each time, just like the postcards. So if you want to get an envelope with not only a postcard,
also a sticker
with a unique design, but a sticker with a unique design that will be different from the postcard, I should add, then get us to that goal on Patreon. We'll post more about it after we put this episode up.
We might have to start the Hiddo water bottle that we just put the sticker on each time to make people feel bad. Exactly. Have it constantly available. And where'd you get those cool stickers? Well, you see.
Yeah. Speaking of postcards, we got a set that's about to go out pretty soon.
We do have a set, and it's a good one.
It's a real good one.
It's a real good one. I won't say more.
Yeah. So shout out. Anyway.
Shit, the only more I will say is to give a special thanks to Caden Kraut, Chris the Postman, Christy Beck, Mike Chaplinsky, Clayton Lefebvre, Mark Yeager, Caleb Joy, Rich Toro, Tari, Fergalaki, Max Veskis, Jacob Rogers, Colton Mooberry, Fixer Punk, Jim Egbers, Jeff Muzzy, Big Burrito, Cincy Alex, Joe Stenstrom, Adrian Sandoval, Chloe Sam 601, Colleen Cutsford, Yook, Jennifer DeVoe, Crawfish, and Bennington III, Alexia Benanti, Big Booty Beatdown, Sam Melody, Ted Cruz's Boy Toy, Dictator Jace, Luke O'Shea, Carker Tarleson, Danielle Jackson, The Word of Microsoft, Jennifer Science, Aaron and his Gundam Gundams, Darth Father, Tailored for Content, Corey Chambers, Retro Mondo, Veronica, aka V, Ash Smith, The Grotler, Murder in a Trenchcoat, Casey Lynn Kelly, AK Gon, Iguana Don, Zach Lantian, Austin Greif, Marcus Corbett, Caleb Roper, Taylor Rensock, Cammy, Tyler Freeman, Isaac Hodges, Madeline C, Anna Valenic, KCC, Say Yes to West, August, Particular Pickman, Sir Capalot, Jeff Sines, Brendan's Egg, Froggy Gumdrop,
Jackie Boy, Shameless, Coherent Babbles, MJ Sharp, Michaela Muncie, The Wallace 3000, Chris T, Kashan Lala, Amanda R, Tyler J, Particulon, Memfrez, Ron Stiletto, Midwest Marxist, Joe the Mailman, Gary from West Michigan, Shawnee GG, Juniper Not Jupiter, Stacked Crabs, I Crowley, Urban Peach, Lord of Forlorn, Holt Forsyth, Booty Snakes, Dew Fairy, Chelceratops, Austin Lima, Lane Waltz, Azim Fid Hussein, Gorgeous Girl Mukes, Brooklyn G, Noverk the Dastardly, Goldthorn, Addie Book, Merlin, Cryobongi, Sergeant Pookie, Hoodie, Kim Kitsuragi, Rose Grimm, Kristen, Jamie the Young Extremist, Jack the Heathen, Archer W, Evan Mingo, AJ Torres, Elo Nico, Jake Hall, Seth Schmidt, Noah Sajas, Majo What, Ultra the Dragon, Mercy Boku, Dick Cheney and 6-Inch Heels, Luke Wechter, Henry Kraggles, Tristan Ringsmith, Yaya, Asuri the Atheist, Aiden Reese, Deep State Agent, Puddle Pirate, Joshua Franklin, Southern Lefty, Lark61, KC, Cannon Man, Troy H, Rourke Muffalo, Nahan San Diego, Nut Mode, Nick DeMara, let me know, Connor Nix, and my mom. Thank you all so much for supporting the show on Patreon. If your name's not on this list and it should be, you let us know.
What could we do without you? Not this.
Some people get hit with Doge cuts.
Some people do get hit with Doge cuts.
And if you don't deserve it, then you'll have to
appeal. Sometimes it's devastating.
And you'll have to appeal if you didn't deserve it, if you are indeed eligible.
You know what? Appeals, $900.
And if you're listening this long, let us know what you think about a little regularly occurring weekly little live stream from Hiddo.
Would you fuck with the fellas playing Night Ring on stream?
Yeah. Yeah, because we're thinking of other ways to engage in the community outside of just, because obviously we can't live stream this.
Exactly.
Because it's early for patrons.
Well, of course, and we respect the patrons.
There are some other stuff we could do, maybe some live stuff more regularly, and I want to know if people would come out.
Would you fuck with two white boys playing like Apex Legends?
Yeah, just a little chiller, less overtly political, you know what I mean?
Just a hangout time.
Yeah, so fucking let us know.
Have a great first half of the week.
Catch you next time.